I pressed delete. Then delete again.
And again.
Each tap erased years of silent labor, swallowed pride, and blood I'd given to people who treated love like a bill to be paid. My hands didn't shake. My voice stayed level. But inside, something that had been breaking for 33 years finally snapped clean. Rowan. My mother's voice could freeze oceans. What are you doing? I looked up from my phone at the dinner table where I'd just been told to pay $5,000 for my niece's prom dress or get out of the family. The roast lamb sat cold between us. My father's face had gone purple. My sister Mireya watched with that smirk she'd perfected since childhood, the one that said she'd already won. I'm leaving, I said.
Simple as that.
My father slammed his fist down. Crystal glasses jumped. You walk out that door, you're done. No second chances. No crawling back. Good. I stood, pocketing my phone. I'm tired of crawling. The thing about family dinners at the Calder Mansion is their performances. Every fork placement matters. Every smile gets rehearsed. My parents built an empire on appearances. My father's construction business put up half the fancy estates in the county, and my mother made sure everyone knew it. But behind those polished mahogany doors, affection came with a price tag. Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story. Tonight started like all the others. Mireya arrived late in her usual cloud of expensive perfume, diamonds catching the chandelier light. Her husband Theo trailed behind, grinning like he'd won the lottery by marrying into money. Which, let's be honest, he had. Dinner conversation floated around business deals and vacation homes. My mother talked about the charity gala. My father bragged about his latest development project, conveniently forgetting to mention I designed half of it. I stayed quiet, pushed food around my plate, and wondered why I kept coming back. Then Mireya dropped her fork with a little dramatic sigh. Rowan, sweetie, I need the tiniest favor. My stomach tightened. Nothing good ever started with Mireya calling me sweetie. Madison found this absolutely perfect prom dress. Vintage Dior, limited edition. It's only $5,000, and you know how hard it is to find something that fits her exactly right. Only $5,000. Like that was pocket change. I set my fork down carefully. Mireya, you make more in a week than I do in a month. Buy it yourself. Her expression went from sugar-sweet to ice-cold in half a second. Excuse me? After everything I've done for this family?
You're always so cheap, Rowan.
So selfish. It's not selfish to say no. My mother's voice cut through the tension like a blade. Rowan Alexander Calder. It's $5,000. You're her uncle. Don't embarrass this family by being stingy. That word. Stingy. Because I worked 2 jobs through college while they bought Mireya a convertible at 19. Because I lived in a cramped apartment while they expanded the mansion. Because I built my own architectural firm from nothing while they criticized every choice I made. My father leaned back, fingers drumming the table. Family helps family, son. That's how it works. Then where were you when I needed help? The words came out quieter than I expected. Where was the family when I was 22 and couldn't afford rent? When I asked for a loan to start my business and you told me real men figured out themselves? That was different, my mother snapped. You needed to learn responsibility. But Mireya needed a sports car. Don't you dare. I'm not paying for the dress.
My voice stayed calm.
Steady. Final. Silence dropped like a stone into deep water. My father's eyes narrowed to slits. Watch your tone with your mother. I'm not disrespecting anyone. I'm just saying no. My mother stood up slowly, hands flat on the table. When she spoke, every word dripped venom. Then maybe you should find another family to leech off of. Pay up or get out. Your choice. Mireya laughed, actually laughed. Guess that's your answer, little brother. Don't let the door hit you. Something inside me went very quiet, very still. I pulled out my phone. Opened the business management apps I'd handled for years without a penny of thanks. Found every account, every contract, every automated payment I'd set up to keep their empire running smooth. And I started canceling auto payments to suppliers.
Gone.
Charity donations made in their names.
Gone.
The contracts linking my architectural firm to my father's construction company.
Gone.
My mother's face went white. Rowan, what are you? You wanted me out of the family? I looked up, meeting her eyes. Congratulations. You got your wish. I walked toward the door. Behind me, my father's voice boomed. You'll regret this, boy. You'll come crawling back. I stopped at the doorway, hand on the frame. The mansion stretched out behind me. 3 generations of Calder wealth and pride. I'd spent my whole life trying to earn a place here, trying to prove I belonged. I was done trying. No, I said without turning around. I really won't. The door closed behind me with a soft click. Thunder rumbled in the distance. A storm was coming, but I was already gone. What would you do if your family demanded money or threatened to disown you? Would you pay to keep the peace, or walk away and risk losing everything? I was 7 when I learned that love in the Calder house had conditions. My father stood in his study, blueprints spread across the massive oak desk. I'd snuck in after bedtime, clutching my sketchbook, pages filled with crooked houses and towers that touched imaginary clouds. Dad, look what I drew. He barely glanced up. Rowan, men don't draw. They build. Go to bed. But I saw something flicker in his eyes when he finally looked at my sketch. Not pride exactly. More like recognition. Like he saw a younger version of himself before the world taught him that dreams were for fools and money was the only thing that mattered. That moment should have connected us. Instead, it became the blueprint for everything that followed. Maria got piano lessons, dance classes, and a pony. I got told to toughen up. When she crashed her first car at 16, my parents bought her a newer one. When I asked for help with textbooks, my mother said I needed to learn the value of hard work. I learned, all right. I learned that in this family, love was currency. And I was always broke. My teenage years blurred together in a pattern of disappointment. School awards that nobody attended. Late nights working at the grocery store while Maria went to parties. Sketching building designs in the margins of my homework, dreaming of structures that would outlast the people who built them. The worst part? I kept hoping, kept believing that if I just worked harder, achieved more, proved my worth, they'd finally see me. At 17, I won a state architecture competition. The prize included a small scholarship and a chance to intern with a respected firm downtown. I ran home with a certificate, heart pounding with excitement. My father was hosting a business dinner. 20 people in suits and cocktail dresses filled our dining room. I burst through the door, waving the certificate.
Dad.
I won. The architecture competition, I actually won. He looked at me like I'd interrupted a sermon. Rowan, we have guests. This isn't the time. But Dad, this is huge. They said my design was. We'll talk later. His tone could have frozen fire. Go upstairs. I stood there, certificate trembling in my hands, while everyone stared. My mother's expression said everything. You're embarrassing us. I went upstairs. We never talked about it later. But the real knife came 2 weeks afterward at a gala my parents dragged me to. I stood near the hors d'oeuvres table, uncomfortable in a borrowed suit, when I heard my father's voice booming across the room. Yes, yes, the Riverside Project. Revolutionary design, if I say so myself. The judges called it visionary. My stomach dropped. He was talking about my competition entry. The one he'd dismissed. The one he'd never even looked at properly. He'd taken my design, made copies, and was passing it off as his own concept for his next development. I walked over slowly. Dad, that's my... His hand clamped on my shoulder, fingers digging in hard. His smile never wavered for the audience. My son's learning the business. Bright kid. Helps out here and there.
Helps out.
Like I was fetching coffee instead of creating the work he was claiming as his own. That night, alone in my room, I made a promise to the kid staring back from the mirror. One day, I'd build something he couldn't steal. Something he couldn't own or claim or diminish. Something that was entirely mine. Years crawled by. College on scholarships and student loans. 2 jobs that left my hands calloused and my eyes tired. My parents came to graduation but left early for a business meeting. Maria didn't come at all. She was in Cabo with friends. I started my firm at 26 with borrowed money and borrowed space. The first year nearly killed me. Ramen dinners and sleepless nights. Clients who didn't pay.
Projects that fell through.
But I kept going because the alternative was crawling back to my father and admitting he was right, that I couldn't make it alone. By 30, my firm had a name. Small but growing. Honest work. Fair prices. I treated contractors like partners, not servants. Word spread. Business improved. My parents never acknowledged it. Not once. Then last spring my mother called. Her voice had that rehearsed sweetness that made my chest tight. "Rowan, darling, it's been too long. We miss you." Miss me?
Right.
They'd missed me the same way you miss a tool you haven't needed lately. "We're having a family dinner next week. Your father specifically asked for you to come. He wants to reconnect." Something in her tone made me pause. Reconnect. That word carried weight. Maybe they'd changed. Maybe time had softened them. Maybe, just maybe, they finally wanted to know me instead of use me. I stood at my apartment window, phone pressed to my ear, looking at the city I'd built a life in. Independent.
Free.
But still carrying this hollow space where family should have been. "I'll be there," I heard myself say. My mother's relief was audible. "Wonderful. 7 o'clock. Don't be late." The call ended. I stared at my reflection in the darkening window. Somewhere deep down, past all the scars and disappointments, that 7-year-old kid still hoped his father might look at his drawings and smile. I should have known better. Do you think people really change, or do they just get better at hiding who they've always been? The invoice sat on my desk like an accusation. Past due, final notice. I rubbed my eyes. 3 in the morning. Office lit by a single desk lamp. Empty coffee cups lined the windowsill. My architectural firm, Calder and Associates, though the Associates was mostly Hope and a part-time intern, occupied the 3rd floor of a building that had seen better decades. This was freedom. This was independence. This was eating instant noodles for the 4th night in a row because a client delayed payment again. Worth it, I told myself. Still worth it. My phone buzzed. A text from my landlord about next month's rent. I typed a response promising it'd be there on time, then deleted it. Typed again. Deleted again. Finally settled on "we'll have it sorted by Friday," and hit send before I could overthink it. Outside, the city hummed with life that didn't care about my struggles. Couples walked home from late dinners. Cabs honked. Somewhere, people slept in beds they owned in houses they weren't about to lose. I pulled up my current project on the computer screen, a community center for the East Side. The client had a shoestring budget, but the design was beautiful.
Clean lines.
Lots of natural light. Spaces that felt open and welcoming instead of institutional and cold. This was the kind of work that mattered. Buildings that served people instead of impressing them. My father would have hated it. Not expensive enough. Not flashy enough. No marble columns or fountains that cost more than most people's houses.
Good.
The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd spent years in his shadow, and now I was deliberately building the opposite of everything he represented. Where he constructed monuments to wealth, I designed spaces for regular people. Where he cut corners to boost profits, I made sure workers got paid fairly. It wasn't making me rich, but I could sleep at night. Most nights, anyway. My phone buzzed again. This time, a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer. 3 a.m. calls were never good news. But something made me pick up. "Rowan Calder?" Speaking. "This is Janet Rodriguez from Riverside Development. I'm calling about the proposal you submitted last month for our housing project." My heart jumped. Riverside was legitimate, a huge contract that could change everything for my firm. I'd submitted a proposal, but never expected to hear back. Big companies didn't usually work with operations as small as mine. "We'd like to move forward with your design. Can you come in next week to discuss terms?" I sat up straight, exhaustion evaporating.
Yes.
Absolutely. Thank you. After she hung up, I stared at the phone like it might disappear. This was it. The break I'd been grinding toward for 4 years. Legitimate money. Steady work. A chance to hire actual employees instead of begging favors from former classmates. I could finally breathe. The next morning, I called my father.
Don't ask me why.
Maybe I wanted to share good news with someone. Maybe that 7-year-old kid was still hoping for approval. Rowan. His voice was clipped, busy. What is it? I got the Riverside contract. The housing development downtown. It's big, Dad. Really big. Silence stretched between us. That's our territory, he finally said. We've done work with Riverside for years. I know. They chose my design over yours. More silence. I could practically hear his jaw tightening.
Well,
don't mess it up. Riverside doesn't tolerate amateurs. Not congratulations. Not pride. Just a warning wrapped in an insult. I won't mess it up, I said quietly. Your mother wants you at dinner next week. She's been asking. There it was. The real reason he'd stayed on the line. Family dinner? 7 o'clock. Don't be late. He hung up before I could respond. I sat there holding the phone, feeling that familiar weight settle on my chest. I'd just landed the biggest contract of my career, and my father's only concern was that I might embarrass him. But my mother's voice echoed in my memory from that call last week. He wants to reconnect. Maybe the Riverside news had prompted this. Maybe they'd finally realized I'd built something real without their help. Maybe this dinner would be different. I looked around my cramped office, at the sketches pinned to walls, at the projects that kept me up nights and broke and passionate, at the life I'd scraped together from nothing. Walking back into that mansion felt like betraying all of it. But I was tired. Tired of carrying anger like bricks in my chest. Tired of holidays alone. Tired of wondering what family dinners were like for people whose parents actually wanted them there. Maybe it was time to try. One more time. The week passed in a blur of work and anxiety. I bought a new shirt, couldn't afford it, but showing up in my usual worn clothes would give them ammunition. Rehearsed what I'd say if things got tense. Told myself I'd leave the second it felt wrong. The night before the dinner, I stood in front of my bathroom mirror, practicing casual conversation like I was preparing for surgery. Thanks for having me. The house looks great. How's business? Even my reflection looked unconvinced.
My phone rang.
A number I recognized, Mireya. Hey, little brother. Mom said you're coming tomorrow.
Yeah.
Should I bring anything? She laughed. Just yourself. Oh, and maybe that checkbook of yours. My stomach clenched. What? Kidding. Sort of. Madison's got prom coming up, and Mom thinks you should contribute since you're her uncle and all. You know how Mom gets about family obligations. There it was. The real agenda. I'll see you tomorrow, Mireya. Don't be so sensitive. It's just dinner. I hung up and stared at my reflection again. The bathroom felt smaller suddenly. Colder. Every instinct screamed to cancel. To text some excuse about work. To protect the life I'd built from the people who'd spent years trying to tear me down. But that kid inside me, the one who still wanted his father to look at his drawings and smile, wouldn't let go. I'd go to the dinner. I'd try one more time. And if it went south, at least I'd know I'd exhausted every chance. Have you ever given someone one last chance, even though you knew deep down it wouldn't end well? The mansion looked exactly the same. 3 stories of stone and glass, perfectly manicured hedges, fountain in the circular driveway that cost more than my entire year's rent. I sat in my car for 5 minutes, engine off, hands gripping the steering wheel. You can still leave. But I'd already made the choice. I grabbed the bottle of wine I'd brought mid-range, the best I could afford, and walked to the door. My mother answered before I could knock. Her smile was camera-ready, but her eyes scanned me head to toe like a home inspector looking for violations.
Rowan.
You're here. She kissed the air beside my cheek. Come in, come in. Everyone's already seated. Of course they were. I was exactly on time, which meant I was late by Calder standards. The dining room smelled like roasted lamb and old money. Crystal chandelier throwing rainbow patterns across white tablecloth. My father sat at the head of the table, reading something on his phone. Mireya perched beside her husband Theo, diamonds catching light with every gesture. The prodigal son returns, my father said without looking up. I took my seat. The chair felt too small, too exposed. Traffic was rough. I lied. It's always rough when you're not planning ahead. My father finally looked at me. Successful people account for variables. 20 seconds in and already a jab. New record. My mother brought out the first course. Small talk circled the table like a shark. Business deals, vacation plans, Mireya's daughter's achievements. I picked at my food and nodded in the right places. Then Mireya set down her fork with that practiced casualness that meant nothing good. So, Rowan, I heard you landed some contract with Riverside?
Yeah.
Housing development downtown. My father's expression could have curdled milk. We bid on that project. I know. They chose your firm over mine. The table went quiet. My mother fussed with her napkin. My design was a better fit for what they wanted, I said carefully. Community-focused. Affordable housing. Affordable. My father said the word like it tasted bad. There's no profit in affordable. There's enough. And people actually get to live in the buildings. How noble. Mireya's voice dripped sarcasm. St. Rowan, building homes for the poor. Better than building monuments to greed. My father's fork clattered against his plate. Watch yourself, boy. I'm 33, Dad. Not a boy. You're a boy until you act like a man. And there it was. The same script we'd been reading since I was 7. I took a breath, tried to reset. Can we just have dinner? I didn't come here to fight. No, my mother said sweetly. You came here because family matters. Because we matter. Her emphasis on we felt loaded. Mireya jumped in like she'd been waiting. Speaking of family, Madison's promise next week. My stomach tightened. She found this absolutely gorgeous dress. Vintage Dior, limited edition. Only $5,000. I know it sounds like a lot, but she's only going to have one senior prom and…
No.
The word came out harder than I meant. Mireya blinked. What? I'm not paying for a $5,000 prom dress. That's insane. Excuse me? Her voice went cold. After everything this family has done for you? What exactly has this family done for me, Mireya?
Please.
Enlighten me. We gave you a home, an education, opportunities. You gave me the same home and education you gave yourself. Then you bought yourself a car and told me to walk. You paid for your college and told me to get loans. You funded your business ventures and watched me scrape by on ramen and hope. My father's voice cut through. You're being dramatic. Am I? When did you ever help me with anything? And I mean actually help, not just tell me to figure it out myself. That was teaching you responsibility, my mother snapped.
No.
That was teaching me I wasn't worth investing in. Silence crashed down like a wave. Mireya recovered first. Well, regardless of your childhood trauma or whatever, Madison needs that dress. You're her uncle. Family helps family. You make triple what I make. Buy it yourself. I have expenses. So, do I. Don't be stingy, Rowan. My mother's voice could cut glass. It's $5,000. You just got a huge contract. You can afford to help your niece. This isn't about affording it. This is about you treating me like an ATM while pretending it's about family. My father stood up slowly. The table felt smaller with him looming. You will not disrespect your mother in this house. I'm not disrespecting anyone. I'm stating facts. The fact is you're being selfish. Your sister asks for one small favor. $5,000 isn't small. It is to people who've made something of themselves. His voice boomed off the walls. But you wouldn't know about that, would you? Scraping by in your little office, playing architect with your community projects. You're embarrassing this family with your mediocrity. Something inside me went very still. Very cold. I'm embarrassing you?
Yes.
You walk around acting superior because you build cheap housing. Meanwhile, I'm closing million-dollar deals. Your sister's living in a house you couldn't afford in 3 lifetimes. And you can't even help with a simple dress for your niece. I looked at each of them. My father, red-faced and righteous. My mother, lips pressed thin. Mireia, smirking behind her wine glass. Theo, looking anywhere but at me. You know what?
You're right.
I can't afford to help. Then maybe, my mother said slowly, deliberately, you should find another family to mooch off of. Because this one expects contribution.
Mooch.
I almost laughed. I've never asked you for a dime. Not once in 12 years. But you're happy to sit at our table. Eat our food. Enjoy our hospitality. Hospitality. The word felt like poison. Is that what this is? Mireia leaned back, playing with her necklace. Look, little brother, it's simple. Pay up, or stop pretending you're part of this family. Your choice. My father crossed his arms.
Well,
what's it going to be? I pulled out my phone. Unlocked it. Opened my business management apps. What are you doing? My mother asked. Making a choice. I found the auto payments I'd set up years ago. My father had given me power of attorney for certain accounts when he expanded his business. He'd needed someone to handle the architectural side, to manage contracts with subcontractors, to keep permits current. He trusted me because I was competent and quiet and never asked questions. Big mistake.
delete.
Cancel. Revoke. Remove. Rowan. My father's voice carried a warning. What are you doing? Getting out of your family. I kept pressing. Like you ask. The donation accounts.
Gone.
The supplier contracts. Cancelled. The automated permit renewals. Terminated. Stop. My mother grabbed for my phone. I stepped back. You told me to choose. I'm choosing. My father's face went from red to purple. You don't have the authority. Actually, I do. You gave it to me. Remember? 5 years ago when you needed someone to manage your expansion. You handed me the keys and forgot I had them. Mireia's smirk disappeared. You can't be serious. Dead serious. One more click. The contracts linking my firm to Calder Construction gone. My father lunged toward me. You're making a huge mistake. I pocketed my phone and headed for the door. Where do you think you're going? My mother shrieked.
Home.
To my embarrassing little office and my mediocre life. Enjoy your mansion. My phone started ringing at 7:30 the next morning. I was still in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying the dinner in my head and wondering if I'd just made the best or worst decision of my life. Unknown number. I let it ring. Then another call. Another. By 8 o'clock, I had 14 missed calls and twice as many unread messages. I made coffee and finally checked. The first message was from Reynolds Construction, one of my father's main suppliers. Mr. Calder, we're showing canceled contracts with your firm. Need immediate clarification. Then from the city permits office. Automated renewals for Calder construction projects have been suspended. Please advise. Then from my father's accountant. Rowan, what the hell did you do?
Call me ASAP.
I sipped my coffee and felt nothing. No guilt. No satisfaction. Just exhaustion. My phone buzzed in my hand. This time, I answered. You have 10 seconds to fix this. My father's voice shook with rage. 10 seconds before I sue you into oblivion. Sue me for what? Using the authority you gave me? You sabotaged my business.
No, Dad.
I removed myself from your business. There's a difference. The permits alone are going to cost me. Not my problem anymore. You wanted me out of the family, remember? Silence. Heavy breathing. You're making a mistake you can't take back. Finally, I said. Something we agree on. I hung up. The calls kept coming. I ignored most of them. But around noon, my sister called. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Rowan. Her voice was different.
Shaky.
No smugness. What have you done? Exactly what you told me to do. I left. Dad's threatening to sue you. Mom's having a breakdown. Do you have any idea how much money you've cost us? Us. I laughed. There is no us, Mireia. You made that very clear last night. I didn't mean, look, we were all upset. Things got heated. But you can't just. Can't what? Stand up for myself? Set boundaries? Stop letting you use me. We're family.
No.
You're people I used to know who happen to be related to me. Family is supposed to care. You just wanted a wallet with a pulse. That's not fair. Neither was asking me to drop 5 grand on a prom dress while calling me a mooch in the same breath. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Dad says you're going to destroy him. I'm not trying to destroy anyone. I'm just done building his empire for free. The contractors are pulling out. The city's demanding new documentation. Everything's falling apart. Good, I thought, but didn't say. Instead, I kept my voice even. Then maybe he'll learn what real work feels like. What it's like to build something without someone else carrying the weight. You're really not going to fix this? There's nothing to fix, Mireya. This is what you wanted. We didn't want this. You wanted me gone unless I paid. I didn't pay. So I'm gone. That's how choices work. She started crying. Real tears, not the manipulative kind she used to get her way. Please, Rowan. Just talk to him. Work something out.
No.
He's your father. He stopped being my father the moment he gave me an ultimatum about money. I hung up before she could respond. My coffee had gone cold. Outside my window, the city moved like nothing had changed. People went to work, lived their lives, had no idea that somewhere an empire built on arrogance was crumbling. I should have felt triumphant, vindicated, something. Instead, I just felt tired. My phone buzzed again. This time, a text from a number I didn't recognize. This is Janet Rodriguez from Riverside Development. Can you come in today instead of next week? We need to discuss accelerating the timeline. My heart jumped. The contract. In all the chaos, I'd almost forgotten. I texted back confirming I could meet that afternoon. Maybe something good could still come from this mess. The Riverside offices were downtown, all glass and steel and modern efficiency. Janet met me in the lobby, sharp suit, sharper smile. Rowan, thanks for coming on short notice. Let's talk in the conference room. She led me through open-plan offices where people worked at standing desks and everything smelled like expensive coffee. We settled into a room with a view of the whole city. So, Janet said, pulling out a tablet, we've been following the news. My stomach dropped. News? About Calder Construction. Your father's company. She studied my face. You're related, correct? Was related. It's complicated. I'm sure. She swiped through something on her screen. Here's the thing. We're considering using Calder Construction for the building phase of the project. Your design, their execution. Past tense. We're considering. But given the current instability, permits suspended, contractor issues, general chaos, we're rethinking that partnership. I waited. This was either about to get very good or very bad. What if, she continued, your firm handled the entire project? Design and execution. We'd bring in independent contractors, of course, but you'd manage everything. I blinked. That's 3 times the work I quoted for. And 3 times the payment. Can you handle it?
Could I?
My firm was tiny. I had 1 intern and a borrowed office. Managing a project this size would mean hiring people, leasing equipment, expanding faster than I'd ever imagined. It would also mean proving I could do what my father couldn't. Yes, I heard myself say. I can handle it. Janet smiled. Good. Because frankly, we're impressed with your work. And we like doing business with people who have integrity. That seems to be in short supply in your family's usual circles. I'm not like my family. We noticed. That's why we're offering this opportunity. She slid a contract across the table. The numbers made my head spin. Take a few days to review. Get a lawyer if you need. But we'd like to move forward as soon as possible. I nodded, not trusting my voice. Walking out of that building, contract clutched in my hand, I felt like I'd stepped into someone else's life. Yesterday, I was fighting for scraps and eating ramen. Today, I was holding a contract that would change everything. My phone rang. My father again. I sent it to voicemail. He called back immediately. Then again. Then my mother. Then Mireya. Finally, I answered. What? My voice was flat. My father's rage had burned down to something colder. Dangerous. You think you've won. But you've just made an enemy you can't afford. I didn't make you my enemy, Dad. You did that yourself. I will bury you, your firm, your reputation, everything. Try it. I'm not scared anymore. You should be.
No.
I looked at the contract in my hand, at the cities stretching out below, at the future I'd just claimed for myself. I really shouldn't. I hung up and blocked his number. Then my mother's. Then Mireya's. The silence that followed felt like breathing after being underwater too long. My phone buzzed one last time. A text from an unknown number. This is Dad's lawyer. You'll be hearing from us regarding breach of fiduciary duty and intentional interference with business relations. Legal action is forthcoming. I read it twice. Then I screenshot it and sent it to my own lawyer, a friend from college who owed me favors. Then I walked home through the city streets, past buildings my father had constructed with underpaid labor and overpriced materials, past monuments to greed disguised as architecture. And I started planning how to build something different. 3 months later, I stood in my new office, actual office with walls and windows and a door that locked. The Riverside contract had done exactly what Janet promised. My firm wasn't just surviving anymore. It was thriving. I'd hired 6 people, real employees with salaries and benefits. The kind of workplace I'd always wanted to create. Fair wages, respectful treatment, no cutting corners to squeeze extra profit. Everything my father's empire wasn't. My phone buzzed with another news alert. I'd set up notifications months ago to track Calder Construction's downfall. Maybe that made me petty. Maybe it made me human. Calder Construction loses major municipal contract. The headline read. I should have felt satisfaction.
Victory.
Something. Instead, I felt hollow. My lead architect, Maria, knocked on my doorframe. Boss, the Henderson project renderings are ready for your review. Thanks. I'll look at them after lunch. She hesitated. You okay? You've been staring at your phone for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Just old news. She nodded like she understood, even though she couldn't possibly. How do you explain to normal people that watching your father's business collapse feels like winning and losing simultaneously? After she left, I pulled up the full article. Calder Construction was down 40% from last year. Contractors had jumped ship. The city had revoked multiple permits. Former clients were choosing competitors. Choosing me. Not because I'd sabotaged anyone. Not because I'd spread lies or played dirty. Simply because I treated people fairly. Paid workers on time. Delivered quality, without the arrogance. Turns out integrity was good for business. My father had taught me that wealth came from stepping on others. I was proving him wrong one honest contract at a time. But proving your father wrong doesn't fill the space where relationships should have been. I closed the article and pulled up the Henderson renderings. Work was easier than feelings. That afternoon, my lawyer called. David Chen, we'd been friends since college, back when we both had more ambition than money. Rowan, we need to talk about your family's lawsuit. My stomach tightened. What about it? It's falling apart. Their lawyer can't prove breach of duty because you were literally doing what your father authorized you to do. The contracts you canceled? You had legal right to every single one. So they're dropping it? Not exactly. They're pivoting. Now they're claiming emotional distress and reputational damage. I laughed.
Couldn't help it.
Emotional distress? They kicked me out of the family. I know. That's why this won't stick either. But Rowan... He paused. They're burning through money trying to bury you. Legal fees alone are killing them. Good. Is it though? The question hung between us. What do you mean? I mean, at what point does justice become revenge? You've won. Your business is booming. Theirs is dying. Maybe it's time to let it go. Let it go. My voice went cold. They told me to pay or leave the family. I left. Now, they want to sue me for leaving. And you think I should just, what? Forgive them? I think holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting them to die. That's a bumper sticker, David. Not legal advice. You're right. Legal advice is this: you're going to win. But winning doesn't always feel like you think it will. After he hung up, I sat in my expensive new office chair and stared at the city skyline. Buildings everywhere, monuments to other people's ambition. Structures that would outlast everyone who built them. My father used to say buildings were immortality. Your name carved in steel and stone. But what good was immortality if you died alone? I shook off the thought and went back to work. The Henderson project needed my attention. The Martinez renovation was behind schedule. The Riverside development required constant oversight. I had no time for philosophy or regret. That night, I worked until midnight. Became a habit, staying late, going home to an empty apartment, collapsing into bed exhausted, so I wouldn't have time to think. Success was supposed to feel better than this. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me answer. Mr. Calder? A woman's voice. Tired. Scared. Speaking. This is Mercy General Hospital. Your father, Victor Calder, was brought in 2 hours ago. He collapsed. We need family here to make medical decisions. The world tilted sideways. Is he? He's stable for now. But it's serious. Can you come? I looked at my desk. At the work I'd been using to avoid exactly this kind of moment. I'll be there in 20 minutes. I grabbed my keys and drove through empty streets, mind racing. This was it. The moment I'd been avoiding since that dinner 3 months ago. Part of me had always known it would come to this. The hospital smelled like antiseptic and fear. Fluorescent lights made everything look dead already. A nurse directed me to the ICU. My mother sat in the waiting room, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. No makeup, no jewelry, just a tired woman in yesterday's clothes. She looked up when I walked in. Something flickered across her face. Surprise? Relief? Shame? Rowan. Her voice cracked. You came. Is he? Critical but stable. Heart attack. They're running tests. I sat 3 chairs away from her. Close enough to be present. Far enough to maintain distance. Where's Mireya? On her way. Flight from Miami lands in an hour. Silence filled the space between us like fog. Thank you for coming, she finally said. I wasn't sure you would. Neither was I. More silence. A doctor walked past. Machines beeped behind closed doors. The lawsuit, she said quietly. Your father wanted to drop it. Last week. But his lawyer convinced him to push forward. Why are you telling me this? Because you should know. He's been different. Since everything happened. Quieter. Like something broke inside him.
Good.
Now he knows how I felt for 33 years. She flinched but didn't argue. A doctor emerged from the ICU, expression carefully neutral. Family of Victor Calder? We both stood. He's awake. Asking for his son. My mother looked at me. Something in her eyes I'd never seen before. Fear. Not fear of losing my father. Fear of what I might do now that I had the power to choose. If someone who hurt you was dying, would you go to them? Or would you let them face the end alone, the way they made you feel your whole life? The ICU was quiet except for monitors beeping rhythms that measured life in numbers. My father lay in the bed, looking nothing like the man who'd built an empire. The machines made him seem smaller. Mortal. Human. I stood in the doorway, unable to make myself step inside. Rowan.
His voice was weak.
Come here. I walked closer. Not too close. Just close enough to hear without the machines drowning him out. You came, he said. Mom called. I thought you wouldn't. So did I. His eyes found mine. For the first time in my life, I saw something other than judgment or disappointment. I saw regret. I'm sorry. 2 words. 33 years too late. For what exactly?
My voice stayed even.
For telling me to get out? For the lawsuit? For taking credit for my work? For treating me like a burden my entire life? All of it.
He coughed.
Winced. All of it, son. Don't call me that. You lost the right months ago. I know. He closed his eyes. You were right. About everything. I measured love in dollars. Taught your sister the same poison. And now. He gestured weakly at the machines. Now I'm here. And the only person who came is the one I treated worst. Mireya's coming. She's on a flight. Because she has to. You came because. He paused. Why did you come? Good question. I've been asking myself that since I got in the car. I don't know. Maybe because someone needs to make medical decisions. Maybe because I'm not like you.
No.
You're better than me. The words hit harder than any insult ever had. A nurse came in, checked monitors, adjusted something. Left us alone again. The business is dying, he said after she left. Everything I built. Gone. You built it on shortcuts and exploitation. It was always going to fall. I know. Took me too long to see it. He looked at the ceiling. Your designs were always better than mine. You knew that, didn't you?
Yeah.
I was jealous. My own son, and I couldn't stand that you had talent I'd never have. So I took credit. Made you small. Kept you hungry. His voice broke. What kind of father does that? The kind who measures worth in money. I'm sorry, Rowan. I know it doesn't fix anything. But I'm sorry. I wanted to stay angry. Wanted to hold onto the righteous fury that had fueled me for months. But standing there, watching this man who'd been a giant my whole life reduced to machines and regret, the anger felt heavy. Exhausting. The surgery, I said. What do they need to do? Heart bypass. Expensive. Insurance won't cover all of it. And with the business failing. He closed his eyes. I can't afford it. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. Victor Calder, construction mogul, brought down by medical bills. The house, he continued. Your mother and I discussed selling it, using the money for surgery and to settle debts. Don't sell it.
He opened his eyes, surprised.
I'll cover the surgery. Rowan, no. I can't ask. You're not asking. I'm choosing. Why? I looked at this man who'd shaped my entire life through absence and cruelty, who'd taught me what love wasn't by never showing me what it was, who was now depending on the son he'd thrown away. Because you're dying. And I'm not. And somewhere in this mess, I learned that mercy isn't about what people deserve. It's about who you choose to be when you have the power to destroy. His eyes filled. I'd never seen my father cry. I don't deserve this.
No.
You don't. But I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it so that when you're gone, I can look in the mirror and know I didn't let your cruelty make me cruel. Thank you, he whispered. I nodded and walked toward the door. Rowan. I stopped but didn't turn around. The lawsuit. It's dropped. As of tomorrow morning. And the house, the business, whatever's left, it's yours. I'm putting it in writing. I don't want it. I know. That's why you should have it. I left before he could see my own eyes watering. In the hallway, my mother waited. Mireya had arrived, still in travel clothes, mascara smudged. What did he say? My mother asked. He apologized. Mireya's voice was small. For what? Everything. I walked past them toward the exit. My mother caught my arm. You paid for the surgery.
Didn't you?
How did you? The hospital said it was covered by a family friend. But there are no family friends anymore.
Just you.
I pulled my arm away gently. He's your husband. Whatever he did to me, you loved him once. I couldn't let him die over money. She started crying. Real tears. Not the performative kind she'd used at parties. You're a better person than any of us, she said.
No.
I'm just done being angry. There's a difference. I walked out of the hospital into cool night air. My phone buzzed. David, my lawyer. Calder Construction just filed dissolution papers. They're officially dropping the lawsuit and closing the business. It's over, Rowan. You won. I leaned against my car, staring at nothing. Then, why does it feel like I lost? Because winning isn't always what we think it'll be. You good?
Yeah.
I'm good. But I wasn't.
Not really.
Victory was supposed to taste sweet. Instead, it just tasted like the end of something that should have been different from the start. Is mercy weakness or strength? And when you choose kindness over revenge, who are you really saving, them or yourself? The surgery took 9 hours. I stayed the whole time, working on my laptop in the surgical waiting room while my mother paced and Mireya made phone calls to people who didn't answer. Around hour 6, my sister sat down next to me. "Why are you doing this?" she asked quietly. I didn't look up from my screen. Doing what? Helping him. After everything. Because somebody has to be the adult. She flinched. Deserved it, but she flinched anyway. "I'm sorry," she said after a long pause. "For that night. For all of it. Are you sorry you did it or sorry it backfired?" "Both. Maybe. I don't know." She picked at her nail polish. "Growing up, I thought money meant love. Dad bought me things, so he loved me. He didn't buy you things, so—" She trailed off. "So, he didn't love me."
Yeah.
And I believed it. Thought you deserved less because you had less. How messed up is that? Pretty messed up. "The house is being sold regardless," she continued. "Dad put it in motion before the heart attack. Trying to cover debts. Mom and I will have to downsize. Move somewhere normal. Welcome to how the other half lives. I deserve that."
Yeah.
"You do." More silence. A doctor walked through, not ours. "Someone else's emergency." "Madison's prom dress," Mireya said suddenly. She wore a $60 one from Target.
And you know what?
She looked beautiful. More beautiful than any $5,000 dress would have made her. "What's your point?" "My point is I was wrong. About everything. About value and worth and what matters. And I'm sorry it took losing everything for me to see it." I closed my laptop and finally looked at her. "You haven't lost everything, Mireya. You lost money. There's a difference." "Doesn't feel like it." "That's because you never learned the difference. None of you did." The surgeon emerged at hour 9, still in scrubs. We all stood. "The surgery went well. He's stable. Recovery will be long, but barring complications, he should pull through." My mother collapsed into a chair, sobbing with relief. Mireya hugged her. I stood apart, watching this family that wasn't quite mine anymore grieve and celebrate in the same breath. The surgeon turned to me. "You're the son? The one who authorized payment?" "Yes." "He asked me to tell you something when he was going under. Said to tell you he's proud of you." First time he said it, apparently. The words landed like stones in water, ripples spreading out in all directions. "Thank you," I managed. After the surgeon left, I grabbed my things. "You're leaving?" my mother asked. "He's stable. You've got each other. I have work tomorrow."
Rowan, please.
"Stay. Just for a little while." "Why?" "Because." She struggled to find words. "Because you're my son. And I'm realizing I don't actually know you at all. And I'd like to. If you'll let me." I looked at this woman who'd raised me without ever really seeing me, who'd measured my worth in dollars and found me lacking, who was now asking for something she'd never given. A chance. "I'm not ready for that yet," I said honestly. "Maybe someday, but not today." She nodded, tears streaming. "I understand." I started toward the door. "Rowan," Mireya called. "Thank you. For all of it. For being better than we deserved." I didn't respond. Just walked out into early morning light. The city was waking up. Coffee shops opening. People heading to jobs. Life continuing like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I opened it, expecting spam. Instead, it was a photo. My father, awake in recovery, holding a handwritten note against his chest. "Thank you for showing me what a real man looks like. I'm sorry I tried to teach you to be like me instead of letting you teach me to be like you. If I survive this, I hope you'll give me the chance to be the father I should have been. If not, know that my greatest achievement wasn't any building I ever constructed. It was you. Love, Dad." I read it 3 times. Saved the photo. Put my phone away. Then I drove home through morning traffic, letting tears fall without wiping them away. 2 weeks later, an envelope arrived at my office. No return address. Just my father's handwriting on the front. Inside, legal documents. The deed to the Calder estate. Transfer papers for what remained of his business assets. A handwritten letter. I sat at my desk and read, Rowan, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I want you to have everything that's left. Not as payment. Nothing could pay for what I took from you. But as acknowledgement. You built yourself into the man I pretended to be. The business, the house, whatever remains, it's yours to do with what you want. Build something better with it. Something that helps instead of harms.
Or burn it all down.
Either way, know that my biggest regret isn't losing my empire. It's wasting 33 years not knowing my son. I love you. I should have said it more. Should have said it ever. But I'm saying it now. Dad. I set the letter down and looked at the documents. Millions in assets, even after the debts. Property. Remaining contracts. The Calder name. All mine. All meaningless. I called David. I need you to draw up some papers. What kind? Transfer of ownership. I'm liquidating everything. Rowan, that's. And splitting the proceeds among every worker who helped build my father's empire. Contractors, laborers, architects who never got credit. All of them. Silence on the other end. You're serious. Dead serious.
Can you do it?
Yeah, I can do it. But Rowan, you're walking away from millions. No, David. I'm walking towards something better. When you have the power to take everything, but choose to give it all away, what does that make you? A fool or a free man? My father died 3 months later.
Peaceful, in his sleep.
The surgery had given him time. Time to settle accounts. Time to say goodbye. Time to become, for just a few weeks, something close to the father he should have been all along. I visited him twice a week those last months. Not out of obligation. Out of choice. We didn't fix everything. Some wounds run too deep. But we talked. Really talked. About buildings and business, and all the years we'd wasted being strangers. He told me stories about his own father, a harder man, a meaner man. How he'd learned that love was something you earned through suffering. How he'd passed that poison down without meaning to. Breaking cycles is harder than building empires, he said one afternoon, machines still beeping in the background. You broke it. That's worth more than anything I ever built. I'm still angry, I admitted. Maybe I always will be. You should be, but you came anyway. That's grace, son. That's mercy. Don't make me into a saint. I'm just trying not to be bitter. Same thing, maybe. The funeral was small. My mother, Mireya, and her family. A handful of old business associates who didn't know the man had changed before he died. And me, standing at the back, unsure if I was there as family or obligation. The minister talked about legacy and achievement, about buildings that would outlast us all, about the Calder name meaning something in this city. But I thought about that 7-year-old kid with a sketchbook, about the teenager who'd had his work stolen, about the man who'd chosen mercy over revenge because someone had to break the pattern. That was the real legacy. Not buildings. Not money. But the choice to be better than what made you. After the service, Mireya approached me at the cemetery. He left you everything, she said. Not bitter. Just factual. I know. I'm giving it away. Her eyes went wide. What? The house is becoming a community arts center. The money is going to the workers. The Calder name can die with him for all I care. You're insane.
Maybe.
Or maybe I'm finally sane. She stared at me for a long moment, then smiled. Small, but real. He was right about you. You're better than all of us.
No.
I'm just trying to build something that lasts longer than stone. 6 months after the funeral, I stood in front of what used to be the Calder mansion. Construction crews had transformed it into something bright and open. Large windows let in natural light. The ballroom had become workshop space. The dining room where I'd been kicked out was now a gallery for young artists. On the front wall, brass letters spelled out words I'd chosen carefully. Kindness builds what greed destroys. Maria stood beside me. It's beautiful, boss. Your father would have hated it. Exactly. Inside, young architects and designers worked on projects that mattered. community centers, affordable housing, schools, buildings that served people instead of impressing them. This was the empire I was building, not with money or power, with purpose. My mother attended the opening ceremony. She'd sold her jewelry, downsized to a modest apartment, looked happier than I'd ever seen her. Your father would have been proud, she said.
No.
He would have been confused, but that's okay. I'm proud, she added quietly. If that matters, it's starting to. Not forgiveness. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But something like peace. Something like moving forward. Mireya brought Madison, now 18 and heading to design school on a scholarship I'd quietly funded. Uncle Rowan, this place is amazing. You should use it. Workshops open to students. Really? Really? Just promise me something. What? Build things that matter. Not because they're expensive. Because they're needed. She hugged me tight. I promise. That evening, after everyone left, I walked through the empty halls. My footsteps echoed off walls that used to witness cruelty. Now they'd witness creation. My phone buzzed. A text from Janet at Riverside. New project coming. Interested? I smiled and typed back. Always. This was it. Not revenge. Not victory. Just the quiet satisfaction of building something better from the ruins of something broken. I locked up and headed home. The city stretched out below me, lights coming on as darkness fell. Somewhere in those lights were people who'd benefited from my father's downfall. Workers who'd gotten their share. Families living in buildings I'd designed with integrity instead of greed. And somewhere, maybe, my father's ghost was learning that legacy isn't about your name on buildings. It's about the lives you improve and the cycles you break, and the mercy you show when you have every reason to be cruel. I drove home to my small apartment, still hadn't upgraded despite the money, and felt something I hadn't felt in years.
Peace.
Not because I'd won, but because I'd chosen who to become when winning was an option. And that choice made all the difference. When everything is gone except the choice of who you'll be, what do you choose? Bitterness or grace? Revenge or mercy? The curse or the cure? 1 year later, I stood in that same art center watching a kid no older than 10 sketch a building on paper. Her lines were crooked. Her perspective was off. But her eyes shone with the same fire I remembered from looking in mirrors as a child. That's really good, I said. She looked up, surprised. You think so? I know so.
Keep drawing.
Don't let anyone tell you it's not real work. She nodded and went back to her sketch. I walked through the workshop where a dozen students worked on designs. Community gardens. Homeless shelters.
Playgrounds.
Projects that would never make headlines, but would change individual lives. This was wealth. This was legacy. This was what mattered. Maria found me in the main gallery. Boss, Riverside wants to discuss another contract. Bigger than the last one. Tell them I'm interested, but only if we maintain our standards. Fair wages, ethical sourcing, community focus? Exactly.
She grinned.
They said they expected nothing less from a Calder. The name still felt strange, like wearing someone else's coat. But maybe that was okay. Maybe I could take the name and make it mean something different. Not power and greed, but service and integrity.
My phone rang.
My mother. We talked once a week now. Still awkward. Still healing. But trying. Rowan, I'm at the grocery store. They're playing that news story about your art center. People are stopping to watch. What are they saying? That you took your father's fortune and gave it away. That you're either the smartest businessman in the city or the biggest fool. What do you think? She paused. I think you're the richest person I know. Just not in money. We talked for a few more minutes about nothing important. When we hung up, I felt that familiar tightness in my chest. Not pain exactly. Just the space where anger used to live, slowly filling with something else. Maybe forgiveness. Maybe just acceptance. A young woman approached me, early 20s, portfolio under her arm. Mr. Calder? I'm Sarah Chun. I just graduated from architecture school. Someone told me you sometimes hire new designers. Depends. What kind of buildings do you want to create? Ones that help people, not impress them. I smiled. You're hired. Start Monday. Her face lit up. Really? Just like that? Just like that. But fair warning, we don't pay as much as the big firms. And we work on projects that matter instead of projects that pay. That's exactly what I want. After she left, Maria shook her head. You hired her without even looking at her portfolio. Didn't need to. She had the right answer. Which was that buildings are for people, not egos. That night, I worked late again, but this time not to avoid feelings, just because I loved what I was doing. Planning a community center for the West Side, affordable housing that didn't look like a prison, a school that made kids excited to learn. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but curiosity won. Mr. Calder? This is Thomas Wright. I worked for your father 15 years ago. Construction crew. He never paid overtime, kept us waiting for checks. I just received a check from your firm with a note saying it was back wages owed. My chest tightened. You did. Everyone who worked for my father got what they were owed. Silence. Then his voice cracked. That money, it's paying for my daughter's college. I thought I'd never be able to afford it. And you just sent it. Your work had value. You should have been paid properly the first time. Thank you. I don't know what else to say. Just thank you. After he hung up, I sat in my office staring at city lights. Calls like that had been coming for months. Workers thanking me. Families telling me how the money changed their lives. Stories I'd never hear if I'd kept the millions for myself. This was the return on investment that mattered. Around midnight, I locked up and walked through the art center one last time. The walls held dreams now instead of cruelty. The rooms echoed with possibility instead of ultimatums. On my way out, I stopped at the brass plaque by the entrance. Kindness builds what greed destroys. Below it, someone had added a sticky note. Thank you for building this place. My daughter loves coming here. She says she wants to be an architect like you someday. You're changing lives. I carefully removed the note and tucked it in my wallet. This was why I gave it all away. Not for recognition, not for gratitude, but because somewhere, a little girl was learning that dreams weren't luxuries for the rich. They were possibilities for anyone willing to work hard and think differently. I drove home through empty streets. My apartment was still small. My car still old. My bank account still modest compared to what I could have had. But I was richer than my father ever was. I'd built something that would outlast stone and steel. Something that couldn't be bought or sold or taken away. I'd built a legacy of mercy in a world that celebrated revenge. Of kindness in a society obsessed with winning. Of grace in a family that had only known greed. And somehow, in giving everything away, I'd found the one thing my father had spent his life chasing but never caught. Peace. Not the peace of victory. The peace of knowing that when you had the power to destroy and chose to rebuild instead, you'd broken a curse that had lasted generations. I fell asleep that night without the weight of anger crushing my chest. And I dreamed of buildings that healed instead of harmed. Of legacies measured in lives improved instead of dollars earned. Of a 7-year-old kid with a sketchbook finally getting to build the world he'd always imagined. Not for himself. For everyone. If you enjoyed this story of redemption, mercy, and breaking generational curses, please subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you never miss our next powerful story. Drop a comment below telling us what you would have done in Rowan's position. Would you have shown mercy or chosen revenge? Your thoughts might inspire someone else going through their own family struggles. Thank you for being part of this community where we share stories that matter. See you in the next one.